be picking me up as normally. Let's just pop up, come on the screen. Yeah, they're normally sort of late. They still haven't told me the times or anything. So, but to be honest, I'm hoping it's like I don't really want to. If it's a church service, I don't want to go to that anyway.
All right, so we might be live. I don't know. If we are live, hello, Aaron, out there. Anybody that's listening on this side of the big pond, because in the States, I know it's really, really early there. And this is James Brockhurst, if anybody doesn't know him, from Energy Flow Tribe, right? That's the name of the channel. And he's got amazing wisdom, amazing, just way up there. I don't know how many dimensions above me you are, but quite a few. I always have to listen to your videos a couple of times, but I love them. You have so much to share. And so I just wanted to ask you, like, how did this all start for you, James? Or you're from UK, right?
Yeah, that's the hardest question. Really, you could say it started in the womb, and not wanting to come out, and then coming into this reality. It's like, what the hell is this? The shock. Well, all I can remember, you have a sensation of being in a. It's the only way I can describe it. It's like being in a pink bubble. You're not aware of a physical body. You certainly not use lungs. You don't know how to vocalize anything at this stage. Your entire intake is through the umbilical cord. There's a feeling of like the world's closing in, but of course it's the opposite. You're getting too big for the womb. And then you come out into this reality, you're faced with this thing called daylight and all these strange people. And there's that feeling of something ain't right with any of this, but with no experience of life, you can't even, well, as a baby, all you can do is eventually point to something and say, that.
So yeah, you might want to make your volume a little bit louder. I don't know if possible. Because sometimes on your videos too, it's a little low, and since I always listen on the phone, that's tricky. I get people telling me that a lot too. That's why I'm talking probably loud right now. But you just did your last video about all the patterns and just talked about how to be self-aware and realize that we are not this avatar when you're in anxious situations. And I think that's really good advice. You know, you kind of go out and look at yourself from the outside when you're in those resonances that you don't want to be in, whether it's anxiety or fear or depression or whatever. That's I like that for a strategy. I haven't really thought of it before.
This is the thing with a lot of channels. They're looking at all the fear side of things, the negative aspects, but it's like people want to hear successful ways of doing things. So, I mean, I've come out, there was a time where going out to buy just a pint of milk within the same building block would take me 8 hours. It sounds totally irrational. But in your mind, you build up this like 30-foot high brick wall and you can't face seeing anybody. And I ended up, I'm going to drink black coffee rather than face going out. Somebody might say hello to me. It's that ridiculous. The anxiety gets so strong and can lead to a panic attack. I had this yesterday. There was a conflict in the mind. My body is saying, you're too tired to go out. The mind was saying, but we've got to go out today. So I could feel that butterfly sensation. And it's like, hold on, I know how to deal with this. I can just focus on the breathing as I'm walking. And then it calms it down. But you've also got to be not feeding energy to, oh, I'm having a panic attack, because that will just encourage it. You're sending signals in the body. So the only way we can really communicate with the organs is through the breathing. it then sends a signal to the rest of the organs. That's it's described as like the breath of God, basically. When that's what we're doing, we're breathing, we're communicating with these avatars. Are we still live?
Yep, I think so. And I don't know if we even have a chat available or how that works. I'm not even going to try to push anything on my phone. I think we're going. And it's 11:11 right now when you asked that.
It is as well, yeah.
93% is the whole Aleister Crowley number, 93. That's what they all say to each other, 93. So I don't know. I haven't really looked into that number much. But
Well, it seems like a split 6-6 heavily to one side and at the expense of the other. That's how I'd hear that.
right.
But also 12 as well. We've got 12 systems of the body, 12 cranial nerves. The number 12 is hugely important. Zodiac hours of the day and night. There's probably a lot more but that's just off the top of my head that I can sort of readily think of. Spiritually, well, everything in this reality is based on us. Dimensions of a bed, dimensions of a chair, and also the technology. When you download from it's called downloading or uploading to the Google Cloud. It's an artificial consciousness. It's a variation on a spiritual truth, for very different reasons. So these things can pop back into the mind as and when we need them. We haven't got to retain the information in the head. It's like having an attic that's just, you throw all the boxes up there and you can't find in it. So it's talked of often in terms of feng shui. It's like make sure everything's in neat boxes, so you can access these things again. So as much as in the physical, we're doing this internally in the spiritual as well. Getting your house in order within the housing that is around us. It's really all about changing how we perceive things, which changes the chemical changes in the body, if that makes sense. So if we're in that fight or flight survival mode, we're going to be more acidic. And of course, then that's going to make chemical changes in the body. You're not going to have time to sit down and think and weigh things up. For example, if you were sort of faced with a ferocious brown bear that's coming towards you, you're not going to, most likely not going to sit there and meditate your way out of it. Excuse me. So it's having the right environment and getting rid of toxicity, getting rid of toxic people that are bringing you back down in this lower state all the time. So you then sort of change. It's that internal process we all sort of go through. I'm not saying I've perfected it, but I'm certainly more aware and having conversations with myself. And it's like, that person said that. I don't agree with that. Oh, hang on, I'm feeling a bit triggered. Right, why am I feeling triggered by that? Is it a belief system? Do I know what I believe to be 100% true? Can I put my hand on my heart and say, I know this is true? Or is it just hearsay? It's weighing things up, for definite.
Right, that self-evaluation and just running through why you're thinking certain things. And so many people don't do that. They just go with whatever comes through them, with who knows how it comes through them. Sometimes it's entity, sometimes it's, I don't know how it works, but I swear sometimes people will be polar opposites just minutes apart. I don't know what happens to people, but it's so interesting. But yeah, to have that own your own self-awareness and be doing that self-evaluation with your emotions, and when you do get triggered and go, wait, why am I triggered, instead of just getting triggered and reacting. And that's so powerful. That's true alchemy there, right there. That's what it's all about, because you still need to have those emotions and release them, but man, don't let them control you.
Yeah. Well, I listened to quite a spread of different channels. I've listened to Alan Watts, I've listened to Neville Goddard, Ken Wheeler, Jason, and I find that all these things actually fit together. They may look on the surface to be in sort of opposites. Take, for example, Neville Goddard, he's talking about the Bible, but he shows in that, in the interpretation, most of it is internal. I mean, if you think about the physical body, roughly the center is around the solar plexus, the place of the sun. But when you move to the chakra system, the center is the heart. So even in that, you can see it's about raising that kundalini or Christ consciousness within oneself. You're raising it up. I see it in a way that the center of the heart is where we truly are, and you've basically got a lighthouse with a throne of God, as it were, which is the pineal gland. The skull is the Golgotha. I was really interested what Jason said about how the whole Moses story is a fiction, and I thought, yeah, I can accept what he's saying from a historical point, but that we're facing something that seems to lack creativity. So it's going to be a borrowed story from somewhere else, and I can see what they've done with it. They've externalized an internal spiritual truth. Moses is basically us, and I listened to a very good explanation by Bill Donahue, and it actually makes sense. And you can see this same pattern today, where you've got a mixture of truth and lies all muddled up. So there's enough truth to lure people in, but then with a very, very false additions added to it. And it seems the same authorship behind the Bible that is behind all the stories we get today, and they are basically all just gossip and hearsay. Things you see on the television, it's like, I can't go out and verify if that's true or not, and nor can most people. It's even done on, you can't go to that country on holiday because they're at war, so we're not taking tourists there. So you can't even go and check these things. They've got a perfect explanation as to why you can't go and witness the things and to say whether you can see it with your own eyes or not. And they rely on this, and it works on the same principle as Ken Wheeler shows with the magnet. It is self-feeding. But this thing is generating fear and feeding on the fear. Fear feeds fear, and it grows it all the time. But that's not a good place to be. But what I've found is the world external of me has not changed one bit, but my perception and how I look at it and be an observer of myself has definitely changed how I interact with it and how much I interact with it. So I split my days between external interaction and internally processing everything and finding that balance during the sort of conscious waking hours. I've lost a third of my life, as it were, in the sleep state. So roughly 8 hours, so 1/3 of a 24-hour day, I'm not conscious, and most of the time I don't know where I go in that. The next day I just know I feel worn out. But then that leaves 16 hours of conscious waking time, and it's like, well, that needs also to be split, because we're faced with a world that is trying to get us doing and keeping busy and chasing after things and not having time to sit down and think. So it's finding that balance and just weighing things up all the time.
Right.
I was
And
going to say the one. Sorry, I was going to say the one common thread that you'll find. I know from what you said about your past and what many other people have said. We've gone through some awful experiences when you see them as standalone experiences, but when you see them as they're all leading to now, that changes. Oh yeah, I can see why I had to go through that. I can see what I was supposed to learn from that but didn't, and that's why it happened again. It works on exactly the same principle of when you're a baby and you have that thought, I don't want someone shoving a spoon in my mouth. I want to hold that spoon and feed myself. You get that conscious desire and that wish to master feeding yourself. And then by extension, then you start to crawl and walk. You may fall over a few times, you may graze your knee, but you get up and you persevere. And through practice and repetition, exactly what the education system does, they work the same way. Through repetition, we learn. Same with driving. You don't consciously think, oh, I've got to put my foot down on the clutch and I've got to check the mirrors. It just becomes automatic. So we can adopt this same principle inside ourselves as well. It's like, hold on a minute, I'm being triggered by this. That's the time I need to stop and go inside myself and think, now, why am I being triggered by that? Why is that? Why am I getting this feeling? So the process is exactly the same through everything we do in life, really. It's just the way we're told is very manipulative and compartmentalized as well. That's another thing. You'll find in this realm that they're dealing with outcome end of things. It's like we're researching to find a cure for cancer, things like that. When they're already out there, they don't tackle with the source of the problem, which they won't, because it's the same ones that are promoting the very things that are working against us. But people are very easily blindsided to not through the materialism, through the technology, through the chasing after these material dreams, that they're not giving themselves to sit down. And when they do sit down, they've got to watch television or they've got to have external distractions continuously because they're not comfortable with just being in themselves. And it's like, well, if you can't be comfortable with yourself, what are you going to do in this world? You're relying on something external all the time to fulfill these gaps. It's like, oh, it's silence. I need to break the silence. I need to say something to break the silence. Well, no, that's the opposite of what we should be doing.
No doubt. So many people are just so afraid to be alone and just have that introspection time. They got to, go out and party or whatever. They have to always be doing something. Some people just try to help other people all the time, just so they don't have to like look at their own self. And that's one of the main reasons I have my channel is to try to get people to do their shadow work, their emotional healing work, to get that self-awareness and to go in there and get rid of those judgments that are running the show in your unconscious and your subconscious and keeping you from manifesting what you really want because you're sabotaging it. If you really think you're not good enough inside, you're totally sabotaging everything you want. So yeah, it's such a simple remedy, but so many people just won't even go there. It's so interesting.
Yeah, well, the common theme is always about taking the step into the unknown, coming out of the comfort zone, the familiarity. Although I'd say there's a balance with that. There's certain things you can do, certain procedures, like I'll get up in the morning, I'll make a cup of coffee, I'll have a cigarette. I don't even think about it. That's just happening, but the mind is doing something else completely different. I'm got to put the attention into the material needs in the same way So in some ways you could say I've split the mind. I've taken what the system has shown me with a compartmentalization, but the compartmentalization in the mind is now working. So I'm now having a conversation. Those 12 cranial nerves, you could give them names like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and so on, or you could give them names like Aquarius, Pisces, whatever label you want to apply to it. But it's still 12. So those emotions, you could say, right, we call this one Peter, and it's saying it's protesting about something. It's coming up as a negative reaction. It's like that's where you hold counsel with those 12 disciples in those 12 cranial nerves and say, no, hold on a minute. Because at the end of the day, you are captain of the vessel. When you start looking at what the films and things are showing, like take, for example, Star Trek, the ship is called an Enterprise. It's a business. And it's very true what they're saying. To boldly go where no man has gone before, no physical man can go there. You're the captain. And notice the name is Kirk, which is the Scottish word for church. And the origins of that are in, I think it's a Greek deity called Xerxes, who would lure people into a room, lock the door, and corrupt their minds. Basically what a church does today. Now, either side of this Captain Kirk, you've got Spock, who is pure logic, and you've got Bones McCoy, who is your compassion. He's the doctor. So you've got to weigh up between what the Spock is telling you and what the Dr. McCoy is telling you. They're basically just characters again that's giving a metaphysical message. Another good one I mentioned that sort of came back into the mind is an early, I think it's the Patrick Troughton era Doctor Who. So it's a black and white one. The story I think is called The Toy Maker. And the toy maker has a book and a pen, and he's writing a story, and he gives the doctor the book and the pen, and the doctor says, you've just given me equal power, and this is what is being hidden from humanity. It's something I've said many times before. If you look at the elaborate, or what looks to be a very complex and elaborate scheme to keep us in that lower consciousness state, by the fact there is, through every aspect of your life, from the moment that umbilical cord, well, even before the umbilical cord is clamped, it's all stacked against you. So that must surely imply that we have something hugely powerful inside us, and that is the ability to co-create. We have equal power and greater power than this system, this artificial system, but it's just finding it within oneself and then radiating it out, which has to be from the heart, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt. And I watched this one guy, Modern Alchemist. He did a lot of the metaphysics and Star Trek, and even the colors that they would be wearing during certain scenes, were significant. There's so much there. It's so layered, and so much of what comes out of Hollywood and all that, it's really showing us our capabilities and what's really going on and all the black magic, and we have to make it white magic and do our own magic. And then you got all the people who aren't capable of that, whether they're NPCs or The Walking Dead. And that's one of the questions I was going to talk to Jason about is, are those people even capable of becoming errants? I mean, I guess NPCs not at all, but then you got The Walking Dead. They're the kind of in between the NPC and the errant. So apparently there's
Well,
only a third of the population that's going to really get it.
that would make sense. I mean, if you look at any experiment, you'll have a control medium, and I'd say that a lot of these, what we call NPCs, are part of that. They are programmed to say yes to everything, to believe everything, as a sort of medium to which you can gauge those that are starting to question things. And any level of beginning to question this reality is a good sign. I don't think any of us get it in 5 minutes. It takes years of. Some will come in from the conspiracy side and see history's a lie and talking about shape of the earth and things. But like Jason and Archaic says, they're only stepping stones. But mud floods is a great one. I've said before, the deeper you dig, you're going to get stuck in that mud. You're not going to, it's another rabbit hole you're never going to find the bottom to. You've got pieces of the puzzle, but even if you look at a modern jigsaw puzzle, it's machine cut and you'll see repeat patterns in that. So you may have pieces of the puzzle, but you haven't got the original box with the pictures to see how these bits fit together. But I think that's a case closed as far as I'm concerned. Jason has got a chronology that is self-proving. And I would say to people, take that formula and apply it to your own life. Maybe do it in months rather than years, and you'll see markers in your own life. It's like, well, I left home at this age, I got married at this age, I got divorced at this age, and you may even start to see these. May not be 138 years, it may be 138 months or something. But the patterns seem to
138 days.
Yeah, the patterns, well, most likely days I would have thought would be the way to calculate it. But of course, it relies on making a mental note of when something happens to calculate it. So it's not that, it may not be that easy. I mean, I've done that metaphorical pressing of the red button. It's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pressing it, and I've basically done like a mobile phone where restore factory settings. So a lot of my memories have just gone. I'm left with the memories of the emotions rather than the details. So it's like looking at a French Impressionist painting and trying to see details. It's very foggy, very hazy, but the emotions are very real and very strong. And it's like, okay, the baptism felt like my soul is being sold here. This feels like the ultimate betrayal. I don't know who these people are, that one of them's holding me, but I think they're supposed to be protecting me and they're giving me away. I can see from that how it's set up a very deep-rooted resentment that has carried on and shaped this life, but it's in the past. I forgive them because they didn't know what they were doing. And it's not going to do me any good to dwell on it. It's like, okay, I can see what that has now taught me. And it's like, this is amazing to get this memory so clear of the emotions of it all. Even the stone of the structure of the church or cathedral or whatever it was, you sense as a baby that cold. I don't mean the temperature cold of the stone. You sense the cold energy of that entire corruption and what it represents. So it is really, we come into this world knowing more intuitively than we do from what we're taught from the external world of education and things. So I don't know how that, if that resonates or how that feels to you.
Right. We really have to get back to using our intuition instead of trying to be so logical.
I don't want to sort of dominate it. I feel like I'm doing all the talking, and so I want to get your interaction and feedback on these things as well.
Right. Earlier you brought up fight or flight, and that's funny because I was just I did a video earlier. I was trying to upload it, but it was taking forever, so I stopped it to do this. And but it was talking about, someone said that people who give too much sometimes have what they call fawning. You have fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You've probably heard of that, right? And fawning is when you try to appease the aggressor, and praise them maybe, or give them things. And so I was just kind of thinking that through, and these are all trauma responses, right? And to me, it's just strange that giving can be a trauma response. That being a good person and trying to appease people and make everyone happy and please people is a trauma response, and that it's a negative trait being portrayed as a negative trait. And then you got stuff like the Law of One and the Seth materials, Seth Speaks, and all that. And they're all about, well, we're here to be in service of others, right? That's one of the main purposes for being here, is to be in service of others. So I don't really know if you can be an overgiver, as long as you have what you need physically and mentally, emotionally, vibrationally. If you have everything you need, why not just give and give and give
Yeah.
and give, even if you get taken advantage of or people don't appreciate it? So what? I have a hard time seeing that you can give too much. I can definitely see taking too much. It's kind of like the love and hate thing. Love is effortless, where hate takes work, evil takes work. For cooperation and love, it's just effortless. It just flows. It's how we are. It's how we're really supposed to be. If we don't start thinking through things, well, I better not give that because I might need something 6 months later or whatever. Thinking like that, it's just, it's just for me, it's hard to just. And I know you have to set boundaries and stuff. And I'm just one of those people. I've always been a giver, even when I was depressed and ungrateful. I always gave things away, and I'm sure it was a people pleasing thing, initially, but I just don't really see that as a negative trait. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, again, it's the balance, because if you were giving, I mean, you can't give from an empty cup. It comes into sort of the magnetism. I mean, there's a lot of channels talk about how if you're empathic, it will attract narcissists. They're like moths to a flame. Then the giving can become something that works against you. I mean, you look at this reality, you've got these black lines called boundaries between nations. We've got an imagination. I mean, the boundary, you still have to have boundaries, because if you're forever giving, it can be draining, and then you're not going to be able to help people. It comes down really to, like on an aircraft, when the oxygen mask comes down, you put it on yourself first, so you can help other people. Whereas if you try and go straight in and help somebody else, and again, it replicates, if you haven't done the inner work, it's like that is the spiritual oxygen mask. That's how I see it anyway, that it's finding that balance, because you could help an addict, an alcoholic or a drug addict, but until they find it within themselves that they want to stop, you're going to be giving and giving and giving and getting nowhere, and they're just going to be looking for the next fix and telling you one thing, but still I'll need another fix of, I don't know, heroin or whatever it is. It's rife around here. It's tragic, actually, where I'm staying. I can't help them until they help themselves. It's one of them. He'll always ask me for cigarette papers. It's like, I've got no benefits coming in. You're asking me for cigarette papers, and yet you've got benefits and you've blown them on whatever you take. And there's no forward planning of, well, if you're going to smoke tobacco, you're going to need cigarette papers. The two go hand in hand. But it's pretty much every time I go out, have you got any skins? Have you got any skins? And I said, have you got YouTube? And this guy said, yes. I said, well, go on. I said, what you've got is lack. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you lack cigarette papers, therefore you have lack. So go and listen to someone like Neville Goddard. See, you don't have this problem anymore. But will they go and do it? No, they won't put the effort in. It's like, I've given you an answer or a way through this that hopefully will make sense, but they're not prepared. For whatever reason, they can't be bothered, and it's like, well, is there any point helping people if they don't want to even help themselves? This is the thing.
Well, I agree with that 100%. And people like that, I won't help. Like, I'll call
No.
people out if they're using and abusing or whatever and taking advantage. I will, but I just think somebody who has just a lot of abundance and they're self-aware. And they're definitely not going to resent if somebody doesn't return favors, because if you're expecting a return by giving something, then that's not really giving, that's trading. Or some people try to manipulate the other person. Well, I did this for you, so you should do this for me. That's not
Yeah.
cool either. That's straight up manipulation. But yeah, I think if somebody just has a lot of abundance and they're very self-aware, done their shadow work, then it's hard for them to overgive. And yeah, of course you got to have boundaries and you're selective on who and what you give to. You don't go and give to these type of people that you're talking about for sure, because you're not helping them at all. And then you give them a way to really help themselves and they don't even want to consider it. So you're just like, okay, I'll go to somebody who does need, or appreciate me and our help, my help or whatever. And that's what's great about having what we have now with the internet and just us being able to do this and be live on YouTube and share our experiences, even though we're not in the same place. It's just so awesome. And this time that we're in, it has to be near the end. So much is breaking up. Just look at the weather, how crazy it is. Like here, the hottest time of the day is right before sunset. And sometimes even after sunset is the hottest time of the day.
Yeah.
That's just insane. When did that happen? And then the white sun and how hot it is too, how hot it feels, and the way the skin responds to it. Everything is different. So I think it's really cool. I've always felt like I'd be here for the end of the world, and so maybe I really will.
Well, it seems to be, it works like a swing, like in a playground where it goes one way before it goes the other way. It's like, well, at the moment, where have all these insects gone? And then it's thanks to Jason saying about, well, actually, and another channel, Rudy and the dogs, saying about these tons of insects landing on these ships. So, are we going to see? I wonder if we're going to see this again, sort of tons of insects just dropping out the sky suddenly. That's a possibility. I'm not going to have a fear of it, and I
I'm not
feel,
going to talk about the insects not being here and make that happen. Like that's what he said the last time. Everybody was like, "Well, where's all the insects?" And then the Simulacrum or AIX, whoever was in charge, overreacted and just had a flooding coming out of the sky. So I'm not going to say anything.
I feel when they're talking about these rising sea levels, it's a gathering of the oceans, as it were, and I feel it's down to the salt content in the oceans that magnetism works through, and I think it will start drawing this water up to recreate this vapor canopy again. Looking, I mean, I put on the Facebook group of Archaic, so I put up a couple of pictures, or a picture I took last year. It was really strange. The sun had set, and then it went this strange light, almost. It's like, oh, is that where they got the idea of sepia toned black and white photos years ago? Because it had that look in, and then it went dark again 10 minutes later. It was a really strange sensation. But so I posted that picture up, and a couple of pictures from Australia from that very day. And then there's been a lot of people all in the southern hemisphere showing basically purple skies. And it would make sense if I mean, some people may even get triggered by this, but just ignore the labels. But if we take the equidistant map, so the southern hemisphere is the outer ring, where it would make sense they're going to be nearer this dome edge, as it were, where they would see it. And it's amazing. South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, people all from that southern hemisphere are all sending in photos onto that post I made, and they're all showing these violet and purple color skies where the sun's setting. It's incredible. So I feel there is something in this, and there's some people are going to say, "Oh, Jason's got it wrong. He's controlled opposition." Well, look, you got just under 18 years to see if that's true or not.
Right.
That's,
Well, and then he's doing a lot of other predictions too, and some of them have already panned out. So, you don't even have to wait. I think he'll do enough predictions before 2040 for people to realize. And it's not all about the whole right brain analyzing thing. I mean, left brain with him, whichever brain it is. But yeah, it's you intuit that he's for real. When I first heard him the first time he was with Santos, I heard him and I was like, I just heard his voice and I knew it, and I had to look at my phone and see, who is this guy talking?
Yeah.
Who is this? I know him. It was so strange. And I'm actually from the same town he's from. And when he was born, I was 12 years old. And that was right when I started doing hard drugs. So
Yeah.
his mom was just like 4 years older than me when she had him. So, we were right around the same area. Pretty interesting. But yeah, it's just, I think he's legit. And if he's not, it'll come out. But
Yeah.
he's done so much research, and you look at his work, the charts he's made, and the stuff he writes out, it's just so meticulous. Like when you draw and when you write, you're the same way. You're left-handed too, right? Correct.
Well, I applied the principles years ago. I found with family history that you get basically what are urban myths. So somebody will put a family tree up. Somebody will do a name match and they just copy that tree. It's unresearched material. They've probably gone on free births, marriages and deaths. And John Smith, that must be my ancestor born that year. So I went down the route of looking at as many of the original documents. So I've actually held parish registers from the 1600s. And it's amazing, you get when you look at the era of these books, it's like there's no hint of a civil war going on. Very rare you get a mention. I think I've only ever seen one mention of a Catholic priest in a burial. It actually mentions he's a Catholic priest. They keep very quiet about that. But this thing with 1902, the 1901 census was done by enumerators, and you see copies of the enumerators' note. The 1911 census introduces the mother's maiden name. It's written by the head of each household. There's a complete change in the way it's done. Interestingly, the 1890 census in the US is destroyed, allegedly in a fire, and then the gallons of water the fire service pumped into this building. Because I'm sure between the 1880 and 1900 census in the USA would show huge discrepancy. So they've eradicated the 1890 that would be the giveaway. But I've applied Jason's formulas to things. It's like I've taken the Austrian composer Anton Bruckner. His lifespan is 1824 to 1896. So the midway marker in his life is 1859. Now, 1858, 59, and 1860, he composes absolutely no music. There's the isometric marker in his life of his entire lifespan. And then I've seen other parallels with his output either side, his musical output either side of those years. And I can see the same pattern. We've all got isometric markers in our lives. We follow the same pattern. It's incredible.
And not just this life either, right? Like the true love, Olivia Newton-John stuff. It's so interesting. I used to be subscribed to her channel, and somehow I got unsubscribed. So I'm glad you told me about that, because yeah, she does really great work.
Well, I dropped a hint to her because she was doing the Johnny Depp thing. I said, have you followed one actor and looked at the common thread of and how beautiful that she's been in the film industry. That last video, her passion came through, and I thought she's got some sort of, this is the way it came across to me. She's got a genuine passion and an affinity with Olivia Newton-John, and she's relaying this. I said in a response to one of Jason's videos, looking at what he's saying, look at the mythological character of Thoth, is he the keeper of the underworld in Egyptian? Well, he's exposing pattern. So he is like a modern incarnation of Thoth. He's put thought into it. Thought, the word to me implies a conflation of thou and ought, something you should be doing, that your intuition is driving you to. And then you start looking at the backgrounds of people, and I can see why they created YouTube channels. It's led them to this point. Their experiences are what they're drawing on, and it's what they're sharing. This is wonderful. The Wi-Fi is no boundary to the spiritual messages. It's
And how does all that work? I mean, how is it possible to do this instantaneous communication? Well, I guess they did it. They did it from the moon, right, back in the 60s.
yeah,
But
yeah.
what made you start your channel, James?
It was about 4 years ago, roughly, just over 4 years.
And I'll put a link to his channel, as well as True Love and Ken Wheeler, and I can probably find the rest.
What it was, I think it was the ringing in the ears or the night sweat, and I was in a few Facebook groups to do with Rh negative blood, and I made a comment, and then suddenly everybody's coming out of the woodwork. Yeah, I'm getting ringing in the ears. I'm getting in the ringing. I'm thinking, this is crazy. This is social media. Isn't this a place where we're supposed to discuss things and compare notes? So let's thrash this out, see if we can come up with an answer collectively between us as to what these things are. What is this ringing in the ears? Is it the way they were told, or some speculate, oh, it's Wi-Fi, it's harmful? I don't see it that way. When I talk to different people on Messenger, that tone changes. It seems to go up or down in the air. It becomes intense. It's almost painful, but not, if that makes sense. It's distinct from the external noises. It seems like a code. Now, interestingly, I watched, it's the last or the most recent video by Bill Donahue called The Green Light. Now, he's saying in that the shaman in South America can eat these hallucinogenic plants, a mixture of two plants. What's in the plants is also in us. It links it, like it becomes like a key to the serotonin. They've now got this knowledge from the plant, in the plant's DNA to the human, that then gives them this information. They can now know how, they've got the knowledge of the plants, the knowledge of nature. They can now draw, and they've not been to university, they've not been to medical schools, and yet they've got this knowledge and they can do these things. And of course, science can't explain it.
Right. Mother Ayahuasca taught, about every plant, according to legend, which is probably way more true than anything mainstream pushes on us.
It definitely opened. I mean, it's something I would personally recommend if you get the chance to try it, because it does open up a whole new perception. I mean, when you look outside after doing an ayahuasca session and you see the trees basically like you'd see fireworks when they explode, and you've got that almost like a tree shape in the sky, but you can actually see trees in an energy form, and you look around at the external world and you now see it in an energy form, and it's like, wow. But there's also that going back a bit like that Doctor Who and the TARDIS, where you've just got a blank white. You're at the center of everything. You are, like Neville Goddard says, he puts it across so well. It tells you the name of God forever and ever is I am. And there is nothing you can point to externally and say, I am. Therefore, it must be something inside each and every one of us. If we are created in the image of, I don't think that means the physical image as such, but the way we think, the way we have the ability to co-create, but it's been locked within us in the same way. A phone circuitry doesn't change. When you add a new app to it, That app works. The circuits are already in there. That's our DNA. These things are based on us. Everything is based on us. Physiology of these church buildings. I mean, you go in
All
through the door.
technology is based on us.
Yeah. And it is take knowledge. It's the vowel shift and slight change of the spell, but they're taking knowledge from us. They're hiding knowledge from us. But we still have a way to find it. Even the Wi-Fi doesn't stop that. Whether the spirit actually runs down through the Wi-Fi as well, or if it is outside of time and space, and the Wi-Fi has nothing to do with it. But I've found you can definitely pick up on people's energies, and I've had things flash into my mind. There's one lady, she said to me, "I hate Bulgaria," and I was like really shocked. Well, I wasn't shocked for long. In my mind, it was like I was an eyewitness. I saw her son. He's wearing a white shirt, blue jeans. He's standing on a corner. I said to her, "There's a silver or white car has come around this corner and machine gunned him." And she said, "That's exactly what happened. It was a mafia killing." And it's like I've just used. It's like I've got this telescope and I've seen back in time and seen that event. Because how could I have known that? I've just had this image just flash in my mind. I don't have any control over it. It's not like I can go out and just read anybody's mind. Whether it's the
your filters are more open than a lot of people's. Like Tom Campbell does that kind of stuff too. He can do that with anyone. He can kind of go in there if he wants, because he's been practicing doing that kind of thing for 50 plus years, I guess now. So he's really, really good at it. And some people like you, your filters aren't as whatever, they're more open, and so you can bring that stuff in. Most people who are classified as schizophrenic, they're really shaman. They're just more in touch. And if they were in communities, which is something we need to start thinking about doing before 2040, and getting in our communities, because and that's something that I'm going to try to do here in Portugal, James, and you need to get over here. Because I'm on 7 hectares, which I'm basically the matriarch of. So
to be honest,
plenty of place to grow things here. And we have water. We have water too. But yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's just I don't even know what I was saying now. Take it away.
So as things stand at the moment, I've got 3 potential options of going 3 different places.
Options are good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let the universe present. I feel I'm meant to be here for a reason, and basically I go out and I've got these. I was given these color cards. That is the most reward. That and feeding the pigeons. That's the most rewarding part. I'm sitting out there with a paper plate. I'm not actually begging. I just put coins on the paper plate and a sign saying, "I've got no identity. I can't get benefits, so needs must." But what I'm actually looking for, I'm putting out a magnetic energy, as it were, saying those that want to hear, those that are looking for an answer, bring them to me. It's being like a fisher of men, as it were. I'm looking for those oyster pearls. I mean, the look on this woman's face of just pure, I can't even think of a word. It was just pure ecstatic bliss. She said to me, "What's wrong with me?" And this voice said in my head, "Tell her it's her liver." And I said, "It's your liver." And she went, "Yeah." But I was able to, with the color card that was drawn, it made sense to her, and she went away with a completely different feeling. Nothing had changed about her situation except now how she feels about it. It had unlocked something in her, and that is so rewarding. But again, I don't go out there with the expectation that I'm going to have 10 people come to me on one day. But I'm putting out the energy, and those that are meant to hear it will be drawn, and I can hopefully help them then. There's a lot of broken people around this way, the definite. But I'm
Well, it's
not.
pretty awesome that you do that, considering you have anxiety and stuff. So you really put yourself out there. You're such a model for other people that have things like anxiety. Because man, that's not just going to the store and getting milk. That's way beyond that. That's way beyond that. And to interact with these people, and and to just pay your way that way too. And I've heard you get on your channel and go, y'all give Ken Wheeler money for his vacation, and you never ask for money for you when you could always use it, but you would never ask for it. I really commend you for that. You're just one of those people. You wouldn't even think of it. You're an amazing guy, James. Thanks for being you.
Thank you. Well, Ken has given away 3 books. They're on it in the description. You can download them. And
You're right. You're right. Ken has given a lot, but if he really wanted a vacation, he could take one. I think he likes it. He's one of those people that likes to complain, 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 complain. I don't think Ken has done his shadow work. I love him. I watch him all the time. I've been watching him for years, and I'm still trying. I've been taking notes on his stuff. I was going to try to simplify it, but I haven't even simplified it enough to where I understand it at this point. But yeah, I think if he really wanted a vacation, he could really get one. All he'd have to do is ask his listeners to he could do like a GoFundMe and raise the money in a day, literally. So you don't need to be asking for Ken Wheeler to give Ken Wheeler money. But it was so sweet of you to do that.
well, the one part I don't go along with what Ken says. He talks about the woo-woo. Well, testimony. I was told, have you got a bit of ember? Which I have here. It's not a polished stone. It's fairly natural. Well, I think it's amber anyway. I had this raging toothache, and it had gone way above the eye level, and it's like, this is incredible. How can I even stand this? But I detached myself. There's that sort of feeling that you're not the body. So I'm now observing the pain rather than immersing myself in the feeling of the pain. And somebody sent me a message and said, try a bit of amber. Well, I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I've taken this bit of amber, I've put it here, I've just held it against the side of my face, and within seconds, I just felt the pain just dissolve away. And this is where I would bring in what Rudolf Steiner says. The stone just has a physical body, but there is an energy in this. This was probably something living once. It still contains an energy. And if we're co-creators, I think it's safe to say that we can all create negative situations. We can all put ourselves in places and bring towards us things we don't want. So have fun.
Really,
experiment.
we're always creating. It's just a matter of whether we're aware of it or not. But we're always creating. We do create our lives. We do.
November, we'll try a bit of quartz, see if that has any effect. But if you've got toothache, experiment, try rose quartz, try pink quartz, try anything. You got nothing to lose. If it dissolves the pain, it's worth trying. And it's not, you're not ingesting anything pharmaceutical that it's going to be synthetic. I mean, why can't people hear the word sin in synthetic? It's right there at the start. It's telling you from the word go, synthesized. It's not natural.
What really works for tooth pain is oil pulling. You just get coconut oil and swish it around. Amazing. Better than antibiotics or painkillers or anything. So there's y'all's tip for the day, people. If you ever have a toothache, toothaches are no fun.
I've got to get some more coconut oil. You just reminded me because that's run out.
Yeah, it's good to have. Natural things. Yeah, I don't see how anyone buys into allopathic medicine. No need for it at all. Just keep your body alkaline and you'll be fine.
I also feel it's the relationship with your body is like master and servant. well, I'm not going to be a tyrannical master over this body servant. It's used to coffee, it's used to nicotine, it's used to cannabis. I'm not going to suddenly cut that off. And like it says in black and white on these tobacco packets, it's quite clear. It says tobacco smoke contains over 70 substances known to cause cancer. It doesn't tell you tobacco is going to give you cancer. It's an admission that there's 70 additional things in there. But then when people will start getting all fearful about what's up in the sky and being sprayed, maybe we're just doing like nature, we're adapting to a changing environment. And that's actually, to me, it feels like, well, that when the dormant DNA is activated, that will sort out. I may not even have a nicotine addiction. It may just fall away with the change in the external atmosphere of this world as this world changes. So
Well, it all goes back to believe it, then it's true. If you think it's bad for you, it's bad for you. If you don't think it's bad for you, it's not bad for you. And it's all about you how you keep your resonance. You know, if you're at high voltage, nothing's going to affect you. You see those people, they can eat anything, go and exercise, and they're just go, go, go. They're perfectly healthy and happy and adjusted. So it's all, we are the placebo effect, you know, we're our own placebo effect. So you can't sit there and think while you're putting something in your body that it's bad for you. That's the worst thing you can do, you know. You can't tell your body, hey, anything you don't need, just incinerate it. And you know, and communicate with your body. That's one of the things you do in language lessons of the heart. You talk to the parts of self, and you got the body talking to the mind, talking to the will, talking to the heart, you know. So you can you know, you just you communicate within yourself how you want things to go, and that's how they'll go.
Yeah, definitely. I sort of, with imagination, I picture myself traveling through the body, going into every cell, visiting it. And even the thought of that, probably I would have thought, is having some effect. As much as anything else, it's because you're becoming the observer of yourself. And let's face it, these bodies are absolutely fantastic. When you go to sleep, well, actually, from the moment that umbilical cord is cut, or even before that, the heart is doing its thing, the blood is doing its thing, all the organs are doing their thing. You're not consciously even having to think about anything. And it just runs on like an automatic program. It's brilliant.
It is. It's just amazing that every cell knows what it's supposed to be doing. And you
Yeah.
know, for people to think that this was all some accident that created this, you know, it's like most accidents I see end up in chaos. They don't end up in the order that our body is. It's so amazing. And for me, who abused my body most of my life, you know, now I'm just really, that's why I try to do things better, you know, for it now, because man, it's just amazing that it's still functional at all.
Well, that you're a living testimony that it's like, despite all the things you put yourself through, you're still here.
Yeah.
That shows how resilient we really are. I've said about the
Like you
Akashic.
said, all those traumatic events, that's what shapes you.
Yeah, we are the Akashic record. We are the living record. All of us. Not some
Yep.
thing up in the sky. In the mind, we
Right.
can. And this is what True Love was talking about when she's talking about shape shifting. I've seen Enki. At least I've seen something that was shown to me in a way that I'd be able to interpret. And I think that's a lot of it. When you get these things in the mind's eye, it may not be the exact truth of what the physical thing looked like, but it's shown to you based on your knowledge and experience. So it makes sense to you. It's not going to be something that's going to frighten you. So I was happy with the image of Enki, and it was afterwards I was left with this feeling of, wow, you've took time out to come and communicate that to me. I was feeling very doubtful about things at the time, and I was actually watching, as a bit of escapism, I was watching how to build log cabins in Canada with just using an axe. And this image, clear as anything, just came in my mind with this message of "Do not doubt me." It's like, oh, that's me told. It's like, okay, I'll take that as a very profound message, that to go to carry on with that feeling. It's more than a belief; it's a feeling, and I feel that was a proof. I mean, I only saw the head, and like it's like a wizard's hat, a bit like all these depictions of how Enki is supposed to look. So, but it completely gold and white, and where the pupils should be. And as quick as anything, it was clear as anything, and as quick as anything, it vanished before I even said, "Hang on, I've got questions." um,
Mm.
and it's like, wow, that was amazing. Um, See, that's testimony. Whether anybody believes that and they're thinking, oh, it's just your imagination. Well, it's all imagination anyway. But it wasn't something I consciously. It's something that this is a distinction. There's things that seem to just pop in the mind, and you think, where did that come from? Was it subconscious? Was it something external? Was it? I don't know. I
Came
don't
from the
know.
Akashic records.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen too many
Like you said,
things.
you are that.
I've seen too many things. I've seen worlds that are not of this color. That the closest I can describe them is they look like the sun coming through a stained glass window, but they weren't earthly colors. It's bizarre. That was first time I did the first level of Reiki, and there was like a stream that was mercury. There was a wolf the other side of the stream, and the colors of it looked like nature, but the colors were completely different. I'm thinking back, I think even that had a purple sky. So I wonder where I'd gone, what dimension that had opened up to. But I can't
Like there's
dismiss.
lots of them.
Yeah, it's too many. There's too many things like that. The seeing the Enki, seeing this wolf, and many other things since that. It becomes so many I can't even remember them now. But it shows that there is more than just this physical realm. And even in this physical realm, you can't go to any surgeon and say, "I'm feeling my heart's broken. Can you fix it? Can you take the heart out, stick it together, and put it back in?" There's nothing physical there, but it feels real. Wi-Fi is
Well,
real.
nothing's really physical because everything is 99.99999% empty space because every atom, so-called atom, is that, it's all just perturbations in the ether, as Ken Wheeler says, and vortices everywhere, hyperbolas and donuts, toruses. And even our body is that, and our biofield around it. Everything, you look at a piece of fruit, a vegetable, everything, it's all toruses.
Well,
On that note, I think we should probably end soon. We're over an hour, so.
yeah, I'd say, well, there's a macro and a micro. We've got an Earth that's got a like a protective dome over it. We've got that over the lens of the eyes. But what about our aura? If you can build up from the heart and radiate that energy out, that's going to strengthen up that your own individual vapor canopy. So it'll be like that film, I think it's called That Guy, where he's apocalyptic fireballs in the background, but he's standing there, he's got a cup of coffee in his hand, he's smiling, and he's got a laptop under the other arm. I mean, to me, that says we're going into a new realm that will still use technology to a certain degree, but not going to be affected by this fear program. And I feel we will actually ghost out of this reality. Our frequency will change that much. But it's an extension of when you talk to what we'd say as an NPC, they just don't hear what you're saying. Well, take that a step further. We won't even physically appear to them. We will just ghost out, I feel. And I feel that's how all these accounts of whole populations vanishing, I feel that is exactly what they're still here, but they're on a different frequency, on a
Yep.
parallel realm that's here but not here, if you know what I mean. It's like Ken Wheeler's radio analogy. It's like you've got radio 1, but you're not aware of radio 2 when you, and it's all talking in spiritual about attuning to things. Well, that is a type of tuning to a frequency, to a vibration, to a resonation.
Right.
It's just different
Yep.
ways of describing exactly the same thing. So we can, I mean, color is described in tones, so is music. Certain tones in music will give you certain feelings. And it's like, why does that piece of music make me feel happy? What is it about that? You may not have an attachment of an event in your life, but there'll be a bit of music and, oh, I like the sound of the rhythm of that or the tone of it. And it's like, that's giving me an uplifting feeling. So it's interesting. You've got 7 chakras and you've got 7 musical notes, A to D. And I would say D is the heart, the green. It's right in the middle. Certainly for me, pieces of music in D minor, D major, E flat major, and C minor. So it's around these 3, depending on which way you, whether you want it from A to G downwards or A, because I think it runs both ways anyway. And again, it's perception. I don't see, if I count A as the A major as the at the top, I don't see G minor as being the most negative. But they do have associations in these keys. I think it's John Matheson in 1713. That's there's this key. C natural is what's described as the childlike key, the one with no sharps or flats. So we see naturally. It seems too much to be just coincidence with any of these things.
Yeah, no doubt. There's just so much, so much. That's why simulation theory just fits, and it's just a way to describe it, illusory, and basically simulation theory and Gnosticism teach the same thing. They just use different words to describe the same phenomena.
Definitely. But this is the thing, it's all man-made labels applied. Whereas a baby, you just point to it and go, "That." You don't know the label for it at that stage.
Right.
But yeah, like Kim Wheeler says, lights and sound are just different parts of the same spectrum, really. And it opens up a whole amazing way of looking at everything in a new way.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
feel,
sound is somehow fundamental though, because light is a derivative of sound. So it's just, yeah. In the beginning was the word, and that's why sound is so powerful. And just like the
yeah,
432, 440 hertz tuning situation, and like I try to always listen to my music in 432 hertz, but most people don't. They don't even think about that, and I'm sure it's subtle, and it's one of those things. Again, if you believe it, it's true. Whatever. I don't go crazy if I hear music that's not in 432 or whatever, but it's just one of those many things that they just change for whatever reason. You're like, why would they even do that? What's the point? So there has to be something to it.
I find it suspicious when you get a spate of these things come up on Facebook, all saying about 440 to 432 and things like, um, but I've tried this comparison, and I have to admit some of the things to me they sound better in 440. They do sound like there is a slight difference. But what I find interesting when we look at Enki, the old name for Enki is EA. Now E and A fused together, or A and E fused together, is the ampersand, the silent letter that has no sound of its own, which I find interesting. But then if you forget the spell of the word, and where you've got double E, you change it to EA, you've got breathe, you've got see, you've got hear, and feel. They can all be spelt with EA. Now, is this thing called me that is talked about in Anunnaki? Is it the basic program that's put into these avatars? This thing that Enki did, and the unthinkable of giving us the Anuna, or 1/3 of us is Anuna, as it were. And then by extension of that, Jason was saying Abraham was an Amorite. Well, Amor is love. And it looks like these beings were benevolent and coming from a place of love. They're giving knowledge, they're giving technology, they're helping people. Totally different picture than we're given of more recent narratives of history about colonialism and empires. It's like they flipped the script again.
Yeah.
Because all those ancient stories are of these people coming across the sea. And now if you're in North America, you know what's coming. You've been told of other land across the Atlantic. That is your promised land. And interestingly, Suma. Finland in Finnish is Suomi, Sumi. I feel that they came to Europe first. Scotland, I feel, is very important as well. And then went to the Middle East. And all the stories that are played out that were supposed to have happened in the Middle East actually come from Europe and from North America and South America. But of course, they've been edited, rewritten, twisted, fused esoteric with historical, and muddied the waters completely. But it's just nonsensical the way it's told as a literal story anyway. I'm supposed to believe in this snake that can talk. Well, physically, a snake's jaw isn't going to be able to vocalize human sounds. And yet there's people that actually believe this and take it, they follow that belief. And it's like, well, that's just incredibly stupid, I think.
Right. They need to watch some Bill Donahue.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's that thread that runs through so much. That last video I linked in about 4 videos, they look to be like True Love's talking about Olivia Newton-John. I showed a link to an archaic, one of the most recent ones about giants. And you think, well, what's giants got to do with Olivia Newton? But when you actually listen to these things and the Bill Donahue and things and the Neville Goddard, it's the same message, just told from a slightly different perspective. I mean, Neville Goddard's coming from interpretation of biblical verses. True Love's coming from showing from the Hollywood aspect, but it is showing the same essence, the same message throughout everything. And I find
The same one too.
It's like, well, whatever it is, my eyes have been opened to a whole new way of looking at things and hearing things in a very different way, and I'm glad of it. I'm glad I've gone through what I've gone through. I'm glad of having the anxiety, because I'm not telling people, oh, you've got depression, cheer up, which is so ridiculous, because if it was that easy, don't you think people would do that? It's something they've not been through depression, so they've only got a concept of it, they haven't got the experience. But I've got the experience of coming out the other side and saying, yes, you can come out of anxiety, yes, you can come out of panic attacks and many more things, just by thinking, hold on a minute, I've had a panic attack, I've got that butterfly sensation, I can feel it starting to manifest. Oh no, you don't. I'm in control of this vessel. I've recognized it, and it's like, now it's addressed. I know I can do it with the breathing. And again, it's practice. If it happens, just keep doing it, keep doing it. Even it goes back to walking. You're going to fall over. You're going to graze your knee as an infant. You're not going to be able to master running straight away. Same as manifesting. You don't expect to manifest a 70-bedroom mansion overnight. That's going to take a lot longer. Start with something simple like finding a feather. Don't look for it and you'll find a feather. They're all signs. It's beautiful. It really is a beautiful world that we're in. I know it doesn't look it, but depends what perception you got on it, what eyes you're looking at the world with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's got a lot of beauty in it. You just have to have that, like you said, that perception. Perception is everything, for sure.
I can't write the technology off either, because without the technology, I'm sure a lot of us would be thinking, have I gone mad? Why isn't anybody else seeing what I'm seeing? But it's given us a chance.
Technology has a lot of beauty too, because you have all the fractal stuff that we couldn't have without technology, all the fractal art, which is amazing. You have semantics, that's kind of technology, how we kind of discovered all that. So technology's great. Everything's great. It's just everything's playing out the way it's going to play out. And, you just have to keep in mind that none of this is really real.
Yeah. Oh, while I think of it, I was asked this question and I couldn't answer it. The biofield tuning, I presume there's all a complete range of tuning forks for different frequencies.
Well, with her method, Eileen's, we just have a few different hertz. She does have that Fibonacci set, which I don't have, but I just use a 174 mostly in the biofield, and then a 528, and then a 417 I have, and then I have some weighted forks, and I have one of the weighted forks is 7 times the Schumann resonance, and the other one is 8 times it. And then there's another one weighted fork called the sonic slider, and it's 93.96 hertz, which I like those numbers. And yeah, it's really just about when you're in the biofield doing the tunings, when you hit those places where your fork it changes its frequency, it doesn't sound right anymore. It might go real high, or real low, or real dull, or real sharp. Depending on whether it's anxiety or stress or pain or whatever, or depression, whatever that trauma was. And then you'll start toning, and oftentimes we use a crystal out there in the field too, and then it makes your body go, oh wait, I'm not sounding right there. Your biofield is like, wait a minute, I need to get back into where I'm supposed to be. Back, she calls it factory reset, factory setting. So yeah, you just kind of wake it up and get it to entrain back where it's supposed to be, and you just get that energy moving again, put it back into the whatever chakra you're working on. People have all kinds of amazing results with it. They get rid of anxiety, they get rid of depression a lot of times, and even physical pain. And yeah, just get relaxed.
Well,
Nice energy healing. It's based on sound, so that's kind of cool.
I have to say, I'm so grateful to you sending me that link to that video that was live about the biofield tuning, because it was that 144 frequency. I felt something physically dislodged. It's like, oh, what's that? That's when I got that memory of that baptism come back so clear. It's like, this has cleared a blockage. And 144 was the number I've been sick. Well, I haven't really seen it since, funny enough. But this is what I'm thinking. You're saying about 417. Well, that's going to be a 12 if you add the numbers up. And I feel this is if you get the right numbers, and maybe that's what these number sequences, they're prompting you to find that biofield frequency that is now going to unlock things. I feel there's a lot more to this. I'm only skimming the surface, and so I'm really grateful to you for sending me that link, because that ringing's gone up in this right ear. It's like there's a confirmation.
Yeah, and Eileen's pretty amazing. She's a true sorceress. She's tapped into source, a good sorceress. But yeah, she really knows her stuff. And I actually got to study directly with her. She doesn't teach classes anymore. So, and it's just such a cool modality too. And you can do it distant or in person. So It's just so convenient. Like I either have people come out here or do it through Zoom or even Messenger or even WhatsApp. So it's really just made it to where I could retire early. I wasn't really planning on that, but I did quit my job because I didn't want to pay taxes anymore and just kind of let things flow and see what happened. And that's where I'm at.
That's brilliant. This is the thing. A lot of people are making a mistake, like with forming a community. They're involving a third party called a government. They're asking permission, and it's letting the system know what they're doing. It's got to be more word of mouth and kept non-formal, non-organized in the way things are, breaking that hierarchical pattern to it. And then I feel we'll start getting somewhere, because as soon as it's like Angela, my life as a pagan, she had a council allotment, and of course the chairman of the allotment is the same one if you complain about anything, and he'd obviously got eyes on their plot after they'd done all the work. So you're not going to be able to push against them against itself. It's not going to tolerate that, but we can work around it, definitely. And this is what it's that yin yang. It's that fine line between the black and the white, and weaving your way through this sort of maze. And it is possible to do in small ways. It's, if we're all I am, so if we're all God, can any one of us individually change this world? No, I don't think we can. Collectively, yes, it'll reach a tipping point. Maybe that's what that tilt is. It's just an expression of saying there's an imbalance, and we're bringing it back to the level again. But
Yeah,
yeah,
or maybe it just has to play out. Maybe the experiment just has to play out. And with the NPCs in there and the Walking Dead, you really can't ever hit that critical mass for the 100th monkey effect, like Jason says. You can make your own reality the way you want it, and probably if you have a community, you can make that a little paradise. But making this whole realm a paradise, I don't know about that one. Because you look how people are, they can't even agree on jabs and masks, and like you said, people want to listen to the government. I've always been rebellious. I've always been had errant behavior and always will. And it's just like people just don't get it. When will they believe there's chemtrails? When the government tells them, or when will they believe something's not good for them? Like a jab, when the government tells them. So
yeah,
what are you gonna do about that? So yeah, I think it's, and really when you make your own reality the way you want it, that's in your biofield. And these biofields, they keep going and going. You got it about 6 feet around you, but then that layers off, and they all connect in the ether. So you just have that better resonance. The more people that have that harmony in their lives, you can see those people when you do go out and have to be in public. You see the people that have harmony in their life, and the ones that don't. You can see it in their bodies. You can see it on their face. You don't have to say anything to them. You can just see their story. And it's so sad. And you look at these people and you're like, you don't realize you're a divine creator being. Here you are suffering for nothing. So yeah, I just don't see the critical mass. I used to be real hopeful for that, but just the last couple of years has really made me aware, because people I thought I was on the same page with, I wasn't on the same page at all, not even in the same book.
yeah. Well, I think what's happened in the sort of 2 years ago, it's actually been beautiful. It's really helped. Well, 2020 implies clear vision. It's made it a lot clearer where people's true colours are. I never thought I would hear adults talking like they're in a playground, but I've heard conversations. It's like, I'm not allowed to. It's like, what, you're in a play school? What do you mean you're not allowed to? Oh, the government has told me I can't do this and I can't do that. It's like, what's wrong with you people? It's like, There are no army roadblocks between England and Scotland. I've driven through several times with no trouble whatsoever. Where's all this rubbish coming from?
Yeah, same thing here. It's like you can't go to Portugal from Spain or Spain to Portugal. I'm like, well, watch me.
It's just it becomes gossip and hearsay. Oh, they've seen it on whether it be social media or mainstream media. It's like there's a message been put up there.
Well, the truth is, government is just gossip and hearsay. It isn't even real.
Uh, it's just it's been a real eye opener. Seeing how things are gone, but I'm glad I've always had a good feeling all the way through this that it's going to end up good. There'll be a good outcome to this. That's never shifted any more than the feeling of there's something very wrong with this world. I don't know what it is, but my gut feeling is telling me there's something wrong. I can't even point to where it is as a young child, but I know I've got that feeling and that won't shift. That has now been confirmed by what's happened. It's the same feeling of, so I got no reason to doubt that. I have the experience of having that feeling that telling me that things aren't right. I've now got a feeling that is just as strong saying everything's going to be absolutely fine. So I'm going to go with that.
That's all it can be. It can't be anything but that, because you're either a divine creator being and you never die, or when you do die, you just go to sleep and that's it. And you know, we all like to be asleep, right? It's one of the most relaxing things you can do is sleep. So even the worst case scenario is that we die and that's that. That's not even that bad of a outcome, you know? It's a win-win situation.
What I object to, as it were, is okay, I'm not going to need this avatar anymore. But the way I feel about it is nothing is added, nothing is taken away. This avatar is on loan. It is a part of this nature program. Therefore, I wish to have something like a Viking burial. So part of me goes up in flames, so I'm giving to the air spirit. Part of me will go to water, so it's the water element. The other part will go to earth. And what have I missed there? So basically, you've got something going to fire, something going to water, something going to earth, and something going to air. I'm giving the body back, but we're not allowed to do that. So my advice to anyone: your best life insurance is to have no insurance, because the government are not going to want to pay for your funeral. And good luck if they want to try and reanimate it. Let them. It won't be of any use to me anymore. It'll have worn out. It's subject to time. So
yeah, I just assume they throw my body in the ocean and let the sea life have it.
yeah, I just love the whole idea of it's the ultimate. I'm giving back to Mother Earth in one form or another. After my dying breath,
she'll get it all back either way.
Yeah, it's expressed as like the gift of life. Well, I've been given a gift of an avatar to function in, so I'm grateful for the gift. But now I know it's only on loan. Here, I'm giving it back to you. But it's been turned into something else. Always with a third. But yeah, that will change. It's all going to change, and people don't like change, but they're going to have to get used to change, because they're going to be facing
the only constant is change, right?
Yeah. Well, nature shows this, the natural cycle of the 4 seasons. You've got constant change, but it's not done in a way where it's not self-replicating, whereas the constant change in materialism is fashion. So there's nothing wrong with those clothes, but they're out of date. They're not with the fashion, this season's colors or whatever. And so it encouraging you to buy more and more. It's not a natural process like the changes in nature, but they've replicated part of it and twisted it, which they always seem to do. this system. It's like take the basis, but we'll add our own little materialistic, egoic flavor to it, as it were.
If Jason's right, after 2040, everybody will be back to nature because they won't have a choice.
Yeah, there's nothing better than, I like the whole Anastasia concept of you have a food garden. So you go out, and by the time you walk around the garden, you've had breakfast, you've picked fresh everything. It's not cooked, it's raw, it's still living, it's freely given.
It's full of biophotons and actually gives you energy.
I remember a world, whether it's this earth or not, where it was freely given by nature. You just sort of like held out your hand and something like a mango would just drop in your hand, but we weren't as solid as we are now. That's definitely a memory. Or some people may say, no, it's just your imagination, but to me it's a memory. And I feel we may well go to something very similar in the future. To me, it makes sense. This relationship with nature will change. Rather than this exploitation, we'll have a new harmonious balance with it. We'll be able to talk to the animals. We'll be able to talk to the plants and the trees. That's shown, even not physical talk, verbal talking, but talking in the sense of.
Well, I already talked to my dogs and my trees.
I don't
my
think.
plants.
Even Prince Charles was made a big thing about he was saying about he talks to plants. I feel that the system has turned it into a ridicule, but it's an actual truth. Again, it can be belief, but see the results of the plants. I would say a happy plant.
Right, and even like really everything, even your car. If you talk to your car and praise your car, it's more likely to treat you right. I mean, it's just putting that energy out there that everything's, you're just always putting the energy out there. If you're talking, words are the most powerful thing, right? In the beginning was the word, sound. So that you're really casting spells. So if you're saying all these good positive things, you're just putting that energy out in the ether to, help that manifest.
Well, a car is pretty much made out of natural resources. So therefore, it must have some kind of energy in it still.
Well, everything, right? Everything's made out of natural resources. I mean, think of some of these houses, they're all natural.
So therefore, they must, even in the technology, there must be some sort of energy, not the technological energy and the electrical energy, but there's some sort of energy in the components from the materials that they come from.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see. Rudolf Steiner talks about it moving from Saturn to Sun to Moon to Earth, and then he says Jupiter is next. I have a feeling it's more likely to be Venus, but that's sort of irrelevant to it. But I think we're going to be moving into a very new era, which is still got some technology and some advances in a new balance with the natural and the spiritual. That's how I feel it's going to end up, and I hope it does.
Yeah. I think it will, when the population gets reduced a couple of times, there's not much choice but to do that.
Well, it's evolution, it's spiritual evolution. For a species to evolve, it would imply something has to go extinct for another part of it to evolve into something new. So that's part of a natural process. It's a part of what they call the natural selection. So,
right.
But it's down to free will, unless they are that control NPC level that is just going to follow all the yes paths that the material world presents to it. But for the rest, they have the opportunities are there. It may sometimes take somebody to say, well, have you looked at it this way? It may unlock something. same with the color cards. It may just give them a new way of looking at things, and that in itself changes the world because you feel different about the world, and that has to radiate out from that feeling. So it is having what would seem to be a very small impact, but it is having an impact collectively, and it's a very good one, I feel.
Yeah. All you can do is try to put good out there and make your life the best you can and help others if you can and learn your lessons and grow. And man, it's just so cool to be able to have all this access to all this information. You really have to be mindful of what you let go into your psyche too and into your mind and where you put your focus, because there is so much media. I think back in the 70s when I was growing up, you had a few books, you had a few bands to listen to, you had a few movies to watch, and now look at all the media that people are exposed to. So you really have to be selective about what you let go into you.
Yeah. Yeah, I find also then it's coming away from it and sitting with it and like, what did I just watch? How is it benefiting me spiritually? Can I see is there a message that I can interpret in it that's beyond the superficial storyline? So I think even going to
Well, there's
film,
always a message if you're looking for it, right? A message is always there. It's whether you notice it or not.
yeah. Well, if the old name for Enki is EA, the way I see this is when you get this thing pop into your mind, it becomes an idea because it's now be given an individual ID. So the EA now becomes an idea, and I feel that it implies there's some communication, whether it's external or something inbuilt, that is now coming through. And for example, I don't think Freddie Mercury was consciously aware when he wrote Bohemian Rhapsody. I can't remember the words. Is this something like, is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? And then caught in the,
No escape from reality.
yeah, it's like that's almost like an esoteric or spiritual message coming through there. And
Oh,
I think
totally.
it's this
So
art
much
spirit.
art, so much art is channeled through the ether.
Yeah,
Nothing is really from the avatar that supposedly created it, right? It's just all out there and it got channeled through them. That's why so many things happen. Calculus was invented at the same time, supposedly, and all kinds of things that happen at the
yeah.
exact same time through different channels. So yeah, so much of it, whether the writer, the creator was aware or not, they were definitely bringing a message through. Like I said, the message is there. It's just whether we look for it or not.
Well, by extension, whereas a painter will have a medium of brushes, oils, and canvas, the artist is the medium to manifest that in the physical. So we're just a channel. There's an art in everything. There's an art to growing. There's an art to cooking. There's an art in everything, if we can find it. Even creating videos, you could say, is an art form. So it's still creation.
Everything, cleaning, anything you do, walking, yeah, everything is art.
Definitely.
That's the thing. You're supposed to live your life as it's art, from the heart, and just make your life, living art and do everything from your heart. I'm not trying to rhyme here, but yeah, that's the key, I think.
Yeah. What we how long have we been talking for? Because I know how the time could just.
Close to 2 hours, probably an hour and 45 minutes at this point. But yeah, that's good practice because tomorrow I'll talk with Jason and I probably won't be saying much and every now and then get in a question, but that's great. Hopefully I can. I feel really honored and privileged and humbled to be able to be one of all his 40,000+ subscribers that gets to kind of have a one-on-one with them. So but
Well, a lot.
that's how I do it, stuff like that. And I'm persistent too. I'm good at shameless self-promotion.
Well, I think it's Max Egan said when he first.
Reprimanded on the Archaics page for sharing my playlist too much. But that's who you would think would want it the most.
Yeah. I think it was Max Egan said when he first heard Jason, he thought, "Oh, it's all egoic," but it's like, well, now flip the script. Imagine you are Jason. You've made this discovery. You're bursting with this information.
You can
Well,
see it. Oh my gosh.
how would you not be like that?
Right.
I mean,
I mean,
that is, it's like the missing bit. Everybody, there's so many channels looking at history and trying to piece things together. Well, you've now
so
got.
many dots. Yeah, he connected so many dots because you were talking about this earlier with mud flood and all that stuff. That's what I was immersed in. Tartaria, mud flood, all these buildings. What were they really? Blah, blah, blah. Antiquitac, all this stuff. And then, bam, Jason shows up. Oh, okay. That explains it all. Thanks. And flat earth, too. And, just like he talks about, all those things are just a step to get to what the real picture is.
Well, that was the thing with the parish registers. It's seamless pretty much. Apart from a lot of them in England and Wales, you're missing from 1625 to 1660. And I seem to remember 1625 is right close to a Phoenix year. I think it was 1624, I think he said, or 26. So apart from that, you've got a pretty much a seamless continuation that implies no reset. So I wasn't fully. I can see this with the buildings and everything, but it's like something ain't quite there with any of it either, unless this reality has a way of actually physically changing the books. But there again, when I'm holding a parish register from say 1600, it's based on the information I've been told, and both their assessment. It looks to be of that age, but I don't know if it's not a clever copy. I can't say 100% it is an original book. It's only what I've been told. I'm no expert. So there's always that in the back of my mind as well, that how does this reality change things? It's
Right.
like Mandela effects. I need to see a VHS copy of a film like Back to the Future and see, was it a Mazda van, or has that video even changed as well? And how is that possible? That
Right. The whole Mandela effect stuff.
that implies that this reality is holographic. For some of these things to change, it defies logic. How can Bibles verses?
How can Judge Judy not have a gavel? And Ed McMahon not do the sweepstakes?
Judge Judy was no gavel. Oh, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
But now you mention that.
That's one of the Mandela effects.
That's interesting.
But yeah, there's too many hints, like Tom Campbell talks about that too, crop circles, another thing, that reality is more than they're telling us, and just too many things. One of the things that opened my eyes was the whole ayahuasca thing, that, a root from one plant and a vine from another plant combined in a concoction that had to be put over fire and brewed, somehow has this magical ability and produces DMT, which we all have. Everything has, even plastic and steel, everything has DMT in it. So, just all these discoveries we're making. And yeah, there's way more to this. And then simulation theory just makes the most sense. And it's just the context we put it in with our technology now. And we had to have been technologically advanced. Just look at all these old buildings and stuff, I'm definitely on board with the whole antiquitac stuff where we had free energy, and it might have been different ambience too in the atmosphere. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's not even necessary. But yeah, just so much cool stuff that shows us that definitely not just a material world.
Well, but you meant when you're talking about that, I seem to remember that the South American mythology talks of a god that had a glass stomach and would try all these different things until it found the right one. I don't know if it was Quetzalcoatl, but again, it's Enki again by the looks of it. It's
Right.
the
Some
same.
benefactor, and we have to have a benefactor, or we would be just tortured and brutalized, and probably not even be here. You know, somebody has to be out looking for our best interest.
Yeah. Well, why would I mean? It's pretty clear the censorship on social media. So how come some channels? I mean, I think I've had one video taken down, but I'm not saying things any different. I've seen the right. Avoid using certain sensitive words like Ken Wheeler or say stab juice. So, I mean, the community knows what he means, but you can't use that particular word. So it shows the censorship. So why are any of our channels even allowed to come onto this platform unless there was a benefactor?
Right.
So
Yeah, because they would just shut it all down and be like, mainstream media is all you get, you know?
it's
Yeah, I
amazing.
think the internet is definitely a benevolent force.
Yeah, definitely got a
And like,
benevolence.
of course, it can be used for evil, like anything, you know, anything good can be used for bad, anything bad can be used for good, if those terms really mean anything anyway.
What if the data that is being collated from everything we say and everything we post is actually from the benevolent side, filtering out and thinking? Because it said that it's not something gained, it's something used in the biblical sense. It's God chooses who is going to be given the seed, as it were. So what if that is another way of saying this whole data filtering is to find the ones that have got that light inside, and it's not all evil at all. It could all be connected to that way. It's filtering out the ones that will go to the new earth that are coming from the heart and know the difference between good and evil, but now there's a huge difference between knowledge of good and evil and actually doing good.
Right, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
A lot of people know what they should be doing and then don't do it. And it's one of those things too, when you kind of get to that point where you become that honest person with integrity, you kind of assume everybody else has done their work to become that type of person too, and that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hopefully that.
You know better, you do better.
Yep. Hopefully those that are the audience that listen to this will hope.
If
I'm
any of
hoping.
y'all have made it this far, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
But I've watched plenty of really long videos. I remember Og Tellez. I don't know. Did you ever listen to him? Og Tellez, Gary Walmerton interviewed him. He was a secret space program dude. I got into that for a while. You know, the whole secret space program people. The more
Not
off, yeah. But anyway, they used to do like 5 and 8 hour videos.
well, when people say to me, "Oh, it's 8 hours," well, there's a pause button. You don't have to try and listen to it in one go. You're better off doing it in small chunks.
And you can speed it up. Like I
Yeah.
talk slow. Some people talk slow. You can play it at 1.5. You can play it at 2 times. You really pay attention, you'll hear it better sometimes. It's like if someone has an accent, you listen more closely. If you're playing it really fast, you'll listen more closely and catch sometimes what people are saying.
Well, it's another thing where you can use the repetition. It's like, don't just hear it once, listen to it 3 times, absorb it. If it feels right, absorb it and make it part of you. Really sort of understand what's. It's like with the Neville Goddards. I listen to them, and in some ways they are very repetitive, and he might bring in one new story, but I appreciate the repetition of it because it makes sense, and it's just reprogramming this avatar. sort of emulate that and go out into the world and do a. If the world's a stage, you can choose what characters you want to play, and there's nothing to say you got to just play one character. You can play multiple characters. The world is your oyster, and it's just looking for the pearls.
Yep, no doubt. I've played a lot of characters so far this lifetime. Who knows
So,
which ones I'll play next?
well, it now becomes a fantastic, beautiful experience, and it's like, okay, it's almost like this is a game, and I can see myself saying, hell no, I don't want to come out of this. I want to go back in again and do this all again. This is brilliant. This is like, I want to go round again on this roller coaster ride. This is thrilling. I've lost the fear of, it's like, I'm enjoying it, the moment.
Yep, exactly. And I've talked about that with Tom Campbell. He's like, oh yeah, this reality is way better than a lot of them. This data stream, however you want to refer to it. And you come here and you learn these lessons and you make the most of it. And then some, you enjoy it. Like everybody wants to say, oh, we're just trapped here. It's so miserable. I want out, but it's really not that bad.
No, no, it's just we're given this perception of it that's very negative, very fearful, and very materialistic and very egotistic. And to me, it's never made sense. It's like, well, let me get this straight. Up to about the age of 50, I'm supposed to have a certain car, a certain house, possibly a swimming pool. I'll be judged on what I've got, what job I do. Now the children have grown up, they've left home, they're replicating this. Now I've got to start getting rid of everything and end up in an old people's home. That doesn't seem right. And not only that, I've got to give 5 out of 7 days, and I'm only going to get 2 days out of this in 4 weeks a year or something. It's like, this ain't a good deal. I'm sure I can come up with a better deal.
Yeah, it's a horrible deal. And you end up using your retirement for paying for your
Yeah.
living in a retirement home. Yeah,
How
it's a total scam.
how long are you going to live? Are you going to budget for a life expectancy for 5 or 25 years in that old people's home? It's like,
Right.
then you're because I've got to get through next year and the year after that, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is.
And an old people's home is, at the end of the day, is a business. It's a glorified hotel for people at their end of their lives. They're operating as a business, so they want to make a profit one way or another. So they're going to give you, they're going to buy bulk catering packs of margarine and cheap white bread, but they're going to be charging you astronomical amounts. You're better off going on a world cruise on a ship. You've got doctors on board, you've got everything on board. You ain't got to worry about your own laundry. Go on a world cruise and retire that way. That's the better way of doing it.
Yeah, or just, get you a tiny home or something that's self-sufficient and live off grid somewhere. But anything better than that. But yeah, at least if you're on a ship, you would have care. But I don't know. I would almost rather just die in the woods than be in one of those places.
Yeah. Well, my ideal dream in this sort of reality, if it's sort of more nature based, is to have something maybe like a large wooden shed with a bed, a nice, decent quality hi-fi stack system and records, and then I've got a food garden, and I've got a community that's close enough but not right on the doorstep. So you've got your alone time, but you can come together as well.
Yeah,
And
that sounds perfect.
if we're growing food, once you've and
Everybody needs their own space, that's for sure.
it's said that if you put a seed under your tongue for 9 minutes, you encode it with your own saliva. You spit in the hole, you put the seed in, you don't water it for 3 days. That seed will now grow a plant tailored to your health needs. That implies we were not hunters. We were very static. And growing food, how much work does that really need? That frees up,
Exactly.
probably only
Hunting
need,
takes too much energy. You use more energy to hunt than you get from eating the prey in the end.
Well, again, look what the system has done. They've given you things called drive-throughs. Well, that's fine. If you've got the constitution of a seagull, you can eat this drive-through food all the time. It's not going to affect you. But the human body, instead of being an expanded consciousness, they're becoming an expanded waistline, and it's a waste that is growing in the amount of waste that the body cannot drive through. They've mirrored what the thing means. It's a sick joke in a way. I can see the sick humor in it and the truth of that. If you had a permanent base with your own food garden, which would take time to create anyway, you'd probably only have to do about 3 hours actual work a week. But
in fruit trees, if you plant fruit trees, you don't have to hardly do anything after a couple of seasons.
And then you'd say to your sort of neighbour in a sort of bartering thing, well, look, I've had a good year on potatoes. I've put in a few extra. So you'd be giving away, and it would be totally reciprocal. And it would also become, you'd have a desire, well, I'd like to learn how to do carpentry. I'd like to learn how to bake bread. And within this community, you could say, right, Fred's going to show you how to make bread today. So if you want to go and learn that, go off with him, learn those skills. We become multi-skilled again as well. I'm looking forward to the future. I really am. I think it's going to be glorious.
Yeah.
In ways
I
that,
think so too.
in the ways humanity can't even really. Well, yeah, it was you. You said it. You said it's beyond our imagination. Well, we just need to extend the imagination, push the boundaries a bit more, and what we're capable of. So
Yep.
you
If you can imagine it, it can manifest.
Yeah, because I think what it was, you left a comment and mentioned you'd got a channel, and I'm thinking, why haven't you mentioned you've got a channel before? And I saw your channel, I listened to that video, and I thought, that's a missing piece of the puzzle. Extend the imagination. What's coming is beyond our imagination. I thought, thank you, Julia. You've just given me an answer there. It's like, wow.
Well,
Again,
I'm about that.
I'm in debt to you now. That's two things: the tuning forks and that one phrase. I really appreciate it.
You're easy to please.
Well, the beauty of the internet, because how would it have happened otherwise?
I know, just amazing for that, and just to be able to connect with like-minded people, because that's pretty much impossible where most of us reside, you know. And yeah, so and all the people that are watching this and subscribe to both our channels, yeah, it's just so cool that we have this group of people who truly are the ones with the empathy and the imagination and the what's the other one? Empathy of being fearless.
Yeah. Again, the perception a lot of people are going to have of fearless is like some sort of knight in shining armor. It's not about being the hero. It's not a outward display. It's, if anything, it's just going about not saying and just doing in our own little quiet ways. And
It's really about worrying about things and just letting things flow and happen as they happen, and fearing what might happen, more of that kind of thing. But the thing I was missing besides imagination and it was intuition.
a lot of it, I mean, the ultimate idiot, Einstein, he's a clown, but that's where the bit that's been exploited, that charisma, that showman. So people are sort of drawn to that energy. So as much as anything else, it's not about going around with a smile all the time, but it's that contented feeling. That not sort of an extreme of whoa, happy, 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 because
Right.
try and maintain that level is, it's gonna, we're in a world of contrast and duality. So it's finding that balance and finding just that contentedness. And then when the opportunities present, you can bring out that elated side and people will respond to it, for definite. It works with music. If you go to a live concert, there is a feeling, and it's amazing how you can have two people standing next to each other and that music might give a very different feeling to one person to the person next to them, and yet they're hearing the same song. And I find that fascinating as well. How people can be affected in positive
Yeah, we
ways.
really do all have our own individual reality stream coming to us, you know. Like you were saying, everything's rendered when wherever we're focused, wherever we're not focused, things aren't being rendered there, you know. Behind your head, nothing's being rendered unless you look back there. Unless you listen to your heart's not being rendered, you know.
Well, it stumbled into the video because it wasn't sort of pre-planned. It's that I use the analogy: if you're not looking at the mirror, does the reflection do anything? Like does the tree make a sound if no one hears it? And it's, if you're not focusing your attention on it, it doesn't really, it can't do anything, or it can't do anything that is going to affect you. But if you're looking at it, you can become like in the Harry Potter film. He's in one of the films, he's mesmerized by this mirror, which is just an illusion. Wishing he could go back to when his parents were alive. And it's, I think it's Dumbledore says, look, Harry, that's just an illusion. You're getting sucked into it, like a television screen. And it's two-dimensional and shallow. But that reflection can't do anything until you do something. But if you go left, it goes right. It doesn't do the same as you. It copies, but it's a reflection.
Yep.
But I feel this duality in that. When you think of it, everything external to you is a mirror. You've got good reflections and bad reflections. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that have been in the working situation where somebody new will come in, or they're paired up with someone, you think, oh, bloody hell, I've got to work with this idiot again. Why has this happened to me? Well, it's happening to you because the matrix or whatever is presenting to you a way of a little reminder to say, that's how not to be. So it's actually a good thing, even when you're presented with someone, and then it's overcoming that sort of, I can't stand them. And it's like, have a bit more compassion and try and see, well, why are they the way they are? What's happened in their life? I don't know their background. So it's developing a sort of a awareness and an understanding, put yourself in the other person's shoes, and then maybe.
Right, that's where empathy comes in, right? That's where your empathy comes in.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to look at someone and say, and I mean, we all automatically do it. Just as soon as you see someone in the distance, you may think, oh, we don't like what they're wearing. But then it's like, hang on, why am I being judgmental about that? It doesn't actually matter.
Exactly.
So
that's kind of right where we started on this talk too, is just having that whole self-awareness and checking yourself when you do have those kinds of thoughts and you're like, where did that come from? You know, it just makes all the difference instead of just reacting and going along.
But imagine if you could crank up this co-creating of what we really are capable of. It makes sense why we're in this realm to learn, because that is awesome power. You don't want to, it's like giving a child a Ferrari and saying, there's the keys, that's the accelerator, not telling them what about the brake pedal. That's going to be a disaster. You've got to be able to control the vessel. You've got to be master of your thoughts, master of your emotions.
Right. Right. If you're going to manifest every thought, your thoughts have to be very pure and very precise.
And also being aware that if I do too much good there, is it going to have an equal and opposite? and create an almighty negative over there. So it's been very mindful and trying almost to, like the system shows, neutral countries are the most prosperous countries because they stay neutral on the surface. Because you start looking a bit deeper, you find they're normally arms manufacturers or centers of world banking and so on, or tiny little principalities, and think, what do they export to have that much wealth? Why is that just like Monaco or somewhere? What does Monaco or Liechtenstein or Luxembourg actually do? How come there's all this wealth, but they stay neutral? So the system is, in a way, showing to stay neutral. Don't go overboard with the emotions, one side or the other, too far.
Right, balance.
Yeah. Picture yourself on that perfectly still lake, and you're that rowing boat, and you're not being rocked. There's no waves. I often do that. I turn myself into a boat and I just float. Because the water's calm, and I'm creating that in the mind. Maybe I'm creating a reality where that actually happens. I don't know. Maybe we're all doing that. Maybe we're all creating universes or worlds as we go. That maybe here, but on a different frequency. Who knows? But it's fantastic to speculate on as well. And like, wow, it gives me a whole new avenue to explore. And it becomes
That's
like,
just,
well,
Tom Campbell says that he doesn't really buy into like every little act causing a whole new reality, that would just be too hard to compute. And it would,
yeah,
it wouldn't really make sense as far as being a whole learning experience too. But yeah, that's just mind-boggling anyway. It's already mind-boggling enough not to think that way. Just to
it
kind
might
of
be.
figure out this one reality, and maybe that we're in a simulation within a simulation. But
Yeah, it's sort of
pretty,
with computer games, you sort of go through a level to get to the next level, but you're still in the computer game. So how many levels are there to this? But how fantastic! Either way. And then I wonder what the ultimate. How far can we take this? It's that film, A Never Ending Story. The checking yourselves continuously. I don't think there's a point where you get to where you can say, I've got it all. I've got all the answers. I think it's a continuous process, and it becomes a fun process, and it becomes, with practice, something automatic almost. I mean, I sit in town.
I think, like you said, repetition, it just becomes, second nature after a while.
Yeah, I sit in town, and let's face it, the fashions are so sexualized that I look at a woman walking towards me and think, oh, she's nice. And then I'm thinking, that's lust. Cut that thought out. You're seeing the outer shell. You're seeing the book cover. You're not seeing the real person by doing that. So I'm continuously checking myself and deprogramming and trying to see the essence, the spirit in people. And I've also found there's such a thing as turning a blind mind's eye, because the energies you get off some of them, it's like, I don't want to know that. I don't want to read those. I can see your thoughts. I can see your energy. And I really don't want to see that. So it's even with that level, I find. But what a fantastic picture it paints. Wow.
Yeah. Pretty amazing times to be deciphering through all this.
How long do you want to talk for? Because I guess that's probably been, another half an hour now.
Right. We should probably go ahead and get off. I need to try to motivate my housemate to go do an errand for me. But yeah, it was great talking to you, and anybody that's listened to this, thank you for being here. And I'll put a bunch of links in the comments for James's channel and some other ones that we mentioned. And let us know what you think. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
All right, James, I'm gonna see if I can end this meeting, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.